Yours to Melt by Rimuru-Chi. Walpergus. Third person POV ===. The Walpergus chamber stood transformed, its somber, ominous grandeur now echoing with restrained tension. What once was a round obsidian table, the gathering altar of demon lords, had vanished under Rimuru's casual hand, leaving only polished black marble beneath their feet, glowing faintly like starlit obsidian. The star-drenched heavens above, an illusion conjured by Clayman himself, shimmered with constellations that did not belong to this world, eternal, cold witnesses to what was to come. All around the circular room, the ancient portals of the demon lords flickered like cosmic eyes. Each one hummed with residual magical resonance, casting hues of their homelands upon the walls. Violet frost from Leon's El Dorado, amber sands from de Gruel's Barbaros, glistening pink petals from Ramirez's forest, and so on. The demon lords had taken their places. Clayman, ever the architect of chaos, lounged elegantly, chin resting on gloved knuckles. One leg crossed over the other. His crimson eyes shone with dangerous amusement. De Gruel, the Earth Lord, remained seated like an immovable mountain, arms folded across his barrel chest, silent but aware. Leon Cromwell, the golden platinum saber, leaned back slightly in his chair, a hand on his chin, golden eyes narrowing as he assessed the anomaly called Rimuru. Frey, ever composed, remained seated in poise, though her gaze occasionally flicked to the figure standing behind her, Carrion, masked in leonine guise, silent yet exposed. Ramirez, small and fluttering on her seat, munched noisily on a cookie, completely unbothered by the shift in atmosphere. Beside her stood Beretta, motionless, and Trainee, the forest dryad, eyes closed in quiet alertness. Dino still slouched in his seat like a lazy storm cloud on a summer day, one eye cracked open with faint recognition. And then there was luminous Valentine, standing gracefully behind Roy, her disguised puppet sovereign, a faint smile playing upon her lips. One that held both amusement and ancient knowledge. Velgrynd sat in Rimuru's seat. Of course she did. No one had dared contest it. Her presence, her beauty, her arrogance. It demanded reverence. Legs elegantly crossed, crimson silk trailing off one thigh like liquid fire, she wore her pride like regalia. Yet behind her almond gold eyes flickered something more turbulent, something she refused to name. And in the center of the room, in the spotlight of 1,000 invisible threads of fate, stood Rimuru Ashra Tempest. Facing Milim Nava, the so-called puppet of Clayman, and Clayman himself, still draped in the illusion of authority, unaware of how laughably small he had become in the face of what now stood before him. Rimuru's voice was quiet but crisp, like the edge of a blade drawn in silence. Still trying to force others to do your dirty work, Clayman? That's why you're standing behind Milim, isn't it? Clayman sneered, his posture arrogant. Don't mock me, slime. You have no idea how powerful Milim truly is. Rimuru's expression didn't even twitch, his tone dropped to deadpan. Trust me. I knew. There was a pause. Then, soft, overlapping voices like threads of prophecy. Guy chuckled. Trust me. He knows. Dino yawned, his voice lazy but firm. Yeah, he definitely knows. Velgrynd exhaled softly, arms crossed, looking away as if indifferent, but the edge of her voice betrayed her. Of course he knows. Luminous, behind her mask of servitude, smiled without speaking, eyes glowing like ancient moonlight. The rest, confused, bewildered, uneasy. Leon blinked once, his sharp mind racing with equations that no longer balanced. Frey's brow furrowed. Carrion's grip on his spear tightened. Even de Gruel leaned forward slightly. Beretta glanced at Trainee, who opened her eyes. And Ramirez, her cheeks puffed with crumbs, shouted with a childish giggle. Go Rimuru. Roast that clayball. Clayman's eyes twitched. His patience broke. You're far too confident for a mere slime, he screamed. Fine, you think you're untouchable? I'll show you untouchable? He raised both arms. Magic circles etched in corrupted glyphs swirled to life at his feet, 5 of them spinning into existence. With a twisted smile, he snarled. Behold! My greatest creations, my 5 marionette death puppets. Dark humanoid figures emerged. Each uniquely shaped, armored in cursed alloys, faces twisted with incomprehensible anguish. but the chamber was not yet done unfolding its horrors. A golden blur leapt to Clayman's side, the baby nine-tailed fox he had paraded as a trinket. But now her form shuddered. Warped. Transcended. She howled, and her body expanded, bones cracking, fur igniting with sacred flame. Her tails writhed, 3 of them transforming grotesquely. One into a tiger's lash of divine fury, another into a sinewed monkey's whip, the third elongating like a blade-tailed kitsune. A corrupted divine beast of the East, the Tamamo of fallen myths. Within Rimuru's mind, a familiar voice rang out, calm, calculating, ever faithful. Notice. Force control tactic detected. Target is under mind manipulation. Rimuru's eyes narrowed. Yea, Raphael. I can tell. Can you handle it? Understood, Master. Preparing immediate release. Upon liberation, the fox will be transferred to your subspace where she will recover her full strength in slumber. Rimuru nodded internally. Damn, you're amazing. Hehe, praise me more, Master. Hi, Raphael-chan is the best. BB blushing response unavailable. This is merely your imagination. Hey. Suor it is. He smiled, a crooked edge playing on his lips. And then he turned, facing Clayman again. Before him, 5 cursed puppets. A corrupted divine fox. The mirrored shadows of its other avatars. Milim, pretending to be a puppet. And Clayman, the pitiful conductor of this cursed orchestra. Rimuru exhaled. Welp, I guess Milim wanted this. Might as well roll with it. In that moment, with a casual flick of his fingers, Guy Crimson summoned a translucent green barrier, an emerald dome of containment that wrapped itself over the combatants with eerie elegance. Only few remained inside. Rimuru, Clayman, Milim, the 5 puppets, the divine fox. A hush fell. Outside, the demon lords watched in stunned silence. The illusionary night sky shimmered above, stars glittering like the judgment of heaven. Velgrynd gripped the armrest of Rimuru's seat tighter than she meant to. Her nails bit into the gold-trimmed leather. That fool, that reckless, insufferable, soft-hearted fool. Facing all that with a smile. It was so, him. She turned her face away, hiding the twist of something in her chest. Her pride said she didn't care. But her heart betrayed her, beating faster, hotter, as if remembering something older than time. And then, Rimuru cracked his neck, stretched lazily like a predator about to pounce. Okay. Milim, his eyes gleamed, starlight reflecting in a deadly grin. Let's play. Then Rimuru tilted his head ever so slightly, his eyes narrowing with a glint of amusement sharpened by contempt, his voice the very embodiment of boredom laced with venom. Clayman. Oh wait, he drawled, letting the name hang in the tense, magical air of Walpergus' emerald-tinged chamber like a decaying stench. Clayman is hard to remember. I'll just call you Clayball instead. A twitch, barely visible to most, marred Clayman's painted expression. The marionette strings of arrogance he so carefully pulled snapped taut, and his manicured fingers curled into trembling fists. Wah! You dare mock me, slime? He roared, his composure fracturing as his voice ricocheted through the vaulted hall. Across the chamber, reactions unfolded like a storm of mismatched tempers. Ramirez, her cheeks puffed with another bite of her precious shortbread, cackled aloud and nearly choked. Hee. Go Rimuru. Roast that Clayball into a crispy meatball. Dino, lazily reclined on a hovering chair of folded mana, snorted, nearly spilling his drink. Clayball, huh? Man, I should have thought of that. Guy, remind me to call him that forever. Guy Crimson, the Lord of Darkness himself, cracked a rare smirk, eyes gleaming like blood sapphires. I like him already. Even luminous Valentine's red lips curved slightly, her eternal smile deepening, radiant and eerie. She whispered, more to herself than anyone. The boy dances on the battlefield like a devil in silk, fitting. Velgrynd, perched elegantly on her levitating seat of flame-forged crystal, refused to react. Her golden eyes remained narrowed in aloof silence. Yet the smallest twitch betrayed her, not of irritation, but of amusement. Her heart, traitorous organ, had the gall to skip a beat. He was infuriating, too smug, too calm, too reckless, and far too aware of her gaze. And yet, as expected, Rimuru raised one hand casually, his fingers snapping with the resonance of a divine command. In an instant, the golden nine-tailed fox, along with her strange trio of beast-formed tails, now in the guise of a tiger, monkey, and wisp-tailed fox, vanished in a shimmer of blue light. Clayman's expression shattered like a porcelain mask hurled to stone. His eyes widened in primal disbelief, hands grasping the air as though he could physically pull her back. What? Where? Where is she? Rimuru's smile was ice. Looking for the fox, he murmured, stepping forward, every footfall echoing like judgment in the chamber's stillness. She was under my protection the moment you brought her here. You'll never touch her again. Not her, and not anyone else. Clayman's mask cracked again, this time with fury. You damn slime. I'll kill you here and now. Then march on your pathetic, monster kingdom of Tempest, and burn it all to ashes. Your people will scream your name as they fall. Rimuru's eyes turned sharp, crystalline golden narrowing with unfiltered loathing. You can try, Clyball. That was the final spark. With a growl that trembled with wrath and delusion, Clayman screamed. Milim. Kill him. Tear him to pieces. Puppets, strike. In perfect synchrony, the 5 grotesque constructs, reeking of dark alchemy and stitched souls, lurched forward with mechanical shrieks. Milim, still wearing her vacant puppet-like expression, blurred forward, her fist cocked back, magic flaring like a volcanic typhoon behind her smile. But Rimuru remained still, calm. In his mind, Raphael's serene voice chimed. Alert. Strategic combat scenario acknowledged. Null energy compression enabled. Activating ultimate skill. Lord of Ruins, Bahamut. Closing square bracket. I may be weaker than my former self, but that doesn't mean I can't match Milim, Rimuru thought. He exhaled. Then moved. The moment their fists met, it was as if the world cracked. A shockwave exploded from their collision, violently displacing air and light, sending a roar of force through the arena like a sonic earthquake. Milim grinned wildly. The 5 puppets were blown back, skidding and tumbling like broken dolls across the floor. Clayman stumbled, nearly falling over from the wave of magical force. Even the demon lords around the chamber stirred. Dino's eyes widened behind his bangs. That's not a normal punch. Guy's smile deepened into something darker. So, you're finally getting serious. Luminous's elegant hands clenched the arms of her chair as her mismatched one blue one gold gaze sharpened. That damn Fathy Twilight Valentine said he was an weaker counterpart, but this power. It's beyond that. Matching Milim Naba's strength? Even Velgryn's composure wavered. Slightly. She didn't flinch, of course. Not outwardly. But within, her pride bristled against the truth. As expected. He is strong, too strong, but... She looked away, lips pursed. Why does my chest ache like this? Clayman's jaw clenched. His beautiful face distorted into one of horror and desperation. This can't be happening. Not you, you're a slime. But Rimuru only sighed, brushing dust from his sleeve, as if bored by the commotion. Hey Milim. His voice was clear. Direct. I know you're pretending. You can stop the act. Milim's eyes blinked once. Then a grin tore across her face, wild and fiery. You caught me, he. You really have gotten stronger, bestie. She launched herself back, hovering with her fists raised, energy dancing around her like a storm goddess unshackled. Let's fight more, this is fun. Rimuru groaned, rubbing his temple. Do we have to? Milim's pout turned into an eager nod. Yup. Rimuru sighed again, the barest of smiles tugging his lips. Fine. A little. Velgrynd stared down at the unfolding clash with her usual mask of regal detachment, legs crossed atop her throne of flame-wrought crystal, one long-fingered hand resting beneath her chin as her golden eyes followed the graceful arc of Rimuru's body shifting into a stance that seemed lazily open, and yet perfectly poised for death. Milim danced in the air, laughter bubbling from her lips like a child let loose in a thunderstorm. She was faster now, gleaming like a comet, her fists infused with so much destructive force that the air screamed around her. And Rimuru, the slime, kept up with her like he was playing. Velgrynd scoffed softly, even as her throat tightened traitorously. He's toying with her. That idiot. That reckless fool. That. Her jaw clenched. That maddening, infuriating, seductive creature. She hated this. Hated that her eyes refused to leave him. Hated that her pulse sped up every time his silver blue hair caught the light just right, or that flicker of violet energy curled protectively around him like wings. And most of all, she hated that Clayman, that despicable parasite, dared to sully this gathering with his schemes. Milim launched a furious right hook, the impact slamming into Rimuru's cross guard with a burst of raw magic that cracked the very air in concentric circles. Light tore through the darkness of Walpergus, like stars going supernova inside a black cathedral. Milim's giggles echoed with manic glee. And Rimuru, didn't flinch. He simply met her blow for blow, his body shimmering with turn-null charged force drawn from Bahamut, eyes like twin galaxies. From the side, Dino was half sprawled over his chair now, looking like he was watching the climax of a soap opera. Is this really the same person? He is insane, Dino muttered, awe making his usual slouch feel stiff. Guy said nothing, but his eyes were no longer amused. They were narrowed, calculating, watching. And luminous? She leaned forward now, chin tilted imperiously as her silver hair swept over one bare shoulder. This strength, no, this calmness. He's weaving absolute power into a lullaby. Was this Veldanava, Sama's intent? Clayman, on the other hand, was crumbling. He had thrown everything. His pride, his puppets, his command of Milim. And nothing worked. He gripped his robes, voice cracking. This can't, he's not supposed to win. He's a slime. A low-born accident of fate. How is he matching Milim? Rimuru's voice cut through the chamber like a breeze slipping through steel. You keep saying that word, Klyball. He sidestepped another of Milim's blows, her fist slicing past him and detonating the air behind. Slime. Like it means something. You think weakness is decided by form? Clayman screamed, I'll rip you apart myself. He lunged, but barely took 3 steps before Velgryn's presence flared. Her magic, ancient and unrelenting, pulsed outward like a solar flare. Sit down. Her voice, rich with crimson flame and imperial will, made Clayman freeze mid-step. His foot hovered in the air, trembling. You've failed, Clayman, she said, the barest edge of satisfaction in her voice. And now, I'm entertained. She hated herself for saying that. She hated the heat in her cheeks when Rimuru turned his head ever so slightly and met her gaze, as though he'd known she would interfere. As though he'd expected it. She looked away immediately, scowling. Milim shot forward again, shouting joyously. Come on, bestie. You're holding back. Rimuru sighed. His hand flicked out with practiced grace, stopping her punch midair, his fingers pressed lightly against her knuckles. Milim, if I go all out, I'll ruin your new outfit. Milim blinked. Looked down. Then gasped. You noticed my new top? Aw, you really do care. Rimuru chuckled under his breath. Always, Velgryn's hand curled into a white-gloved fist. Stop being like this. Stop being so casually, so gently cruel. Damn you, Rimuru Tempest. Meanwhile, Clayman fell to his knees as the shockwaves intensified. His puppets, now sparking and half-crushed from the collateral pressure, lay strewn like discarded dolls. One of them twitched, then disintegrated from the latent magic burning the floor. Rimuru hovered above it all, the picture of calm annihilation. Milim spun midair, grinning, arms thrown wide. Bestie. You're amazing. But now it's time for my Dragon Nova. Let's light this place up. Rimuru raised an eyebrow, Raphael chiming in again. Warning. Dragon Nova will cause mass collateral damage. Suggest countermeasure. Nullification field or diversion. Got it. Rimuru extended his palm slowly, dark energy pulsing into a thin veil that caught Milim's next blast before it could even form properly. The explosion rebounded inside the shield like trapped sunlight, dispersing harmlessly. Velgryn's eye twitched again. That technique, refined, fast, and calculated. He's not just stronger, he's smarter, tighter, he's... Her heart thumped. Evolved? Rimuru looked at Milim again, softly this time. His voice was low, like he was talking to her and her alone, even though the chamber still rang with magic and fury. Hey, Milim. She hovered, glowing with energy and mischief. Yeah? We don't need to fight anymore. You've proven your point. Milim pouted. But you haven't really hit me yet. Rimuru smiled wryly. That's because I'd rather not destroy the entire foundation of Walpergus. I just had these boots cleaned. Milim stared at him. Then grinned again, wild and fanged. Fine. A little more. Just one more punch, Rimuru exhaled, giving the faintest shrug. Fine. And the two shot forward again, light and shadow in twin arcs, while around them, the demon lords watched, the world changing by inches. And far above them all, Velgrynd closed her eyes. I despise him, she told herself. I loathe his ridiculous calm. His silly jokes. That cocky, stupid smile. His strength, his scent. The way his voice slides into my mind like a lullaby made of thunder. I hate. She paused. That I feel alive when he speaks. Her heart betrayed her. Again, she did not forgive it. But she listened to it. Even now. Then Rimuru and Milim touched down, the floor still faintly scorched from their last playful clash, the echoes of their godlike collision rolling like thunder beneath Walpergus' hallowed floor. Milim bounced once on the cracked marble, her grin impossibly wide. Ready for my last punch? She chirped, as if announcing the final act of a grand circus. Rimuru sighed, his golden eyes half-lidded with bemusement, one brow quirked as he dusted phantom soot from his tunic. Fine. This is your last one, okay? Last. Milim clasped her hands behind her back with a sing-song, okay, before taking several light-footed hops backward, each step reverberating with tension, like the pause before a symphony's crescendo. Then, without warning, her entire demeanor shifted. Her childish spark extinguished. A sinister smile, thin and sharp as a dragon's talon, curled across her face. Her eyes, glowing fuchsia, narrowed with calculated malice. Suddenly, the air shivered. Black lightning curled around Milim's body. Her skin became veiled in a glimmering onyx armor etched with divine runes. A single black horn pierced upward from her forehead like a forgotten relic of primordial chaos, and a pair of massive, shadowed wings unfurled from her back, scaled, leathery, draconic. The chamber gasped. This punch will be my strongest one yet, Milim declared, her voice now deeper, distorted, half seraphic, half demonic. In her right fist, energy spiraled like the birthing of a newborn cosmos, pink, blue, and white particles entwined in an impossible weave of chaos and order. The pulse of raw power vibrated through the chamber floor, and small flecks of stone crumbled from the ceiling far above. Rimuru blinked. Oh crap, this is going to hurt. Inside his mind, the smooth voice of Raphael arrived like a calm breeze before a hurricane. Alert! Milim Nava is preparing to use a technique classified as Drago Punch. Danger level. Cataclysm class. Estimated output scales with stardust manipulation. Potential range. Genesis or apocalyptic class. Closing square bracket. Rimuru sighed, voice dry as bone. Figures. If she adds her stardust energy into the mix, it's practically world-ending. He rolled his shoulders once, his aura tightening like an archer drawing string. All right then, he muttered, a smirk playing on his lips. Let's make our version of it. With a sharp gesture, he raised his left hand, and two ultimate skills responded in reverence to their wielder's call. Activating. Ultimate skill, Timodas, Lord of Destruction. Activating. Ultimate skill, Bahamut, Lord of Ruins. A swirl of annihilative energy enveloped his limb, void black spirals, deep violet embers, and traces of shining silver that bent light around him like a singularity. The ground cracked beneath his feet from the sheer weight of energy gathering at his knuckles. Where Milim's punch fused stardust, absolute creation and magicule synthesis, Rimuru's counterstrike was the embodiment of death and dissolution. The end to her beginning. A fusion of two ultimate skills, infused with concentrated null energy and a whisper of dormant nihility. The perfect storm. Suddenly, Milim lunged. Faster than sound. Faster than thought. Her wings shredded the air, her form trailing comet-like stardust. Her horn glowed like a black sun. Rimuru's voice echoed within his mind, sharp with urgency. Raphael, put up the strongest barrier you can. No one else should be harmed. Especially, he paused. A heartbeat. Especially Velgrynd. Raphael's reply was instant, delighted. As you wish, Master. Prioritizing protection of the Flame Queen. Deploying low Genesis class barrier. In a shimmer of collapsing dimensions, Guy Crimson's emerald containment field was erased, replaced by a dome of silver and violet light, crackling with divine geometry. It pulsed once, then expanded, 100 times stronger than the Lord of Darkness' best effort. Velgrynd narrowed her eyes. That familiar power, Rimuru's handiwork, wrapped around her like a silken cage. Not out of dominance, out of concern. Her lips pressed to a thin line. That arrogant slime, as if I need protection. But still, she didn't resist, she only stared as the two clashed. And then, their fists collided. A soundless boom. Reality folded inward. The floor cracked, shattered, and the world screamed. A ripple of pure annihilation spread outward like a nova. Clayman, standing too close, was flung back like a broken marionette, smashing into the edge of the barrier with a dull, choking gasp. His limbs sprawled, his mind reeling in disbelief. How? How does a mere slime possess such power? And Milim, she's not under my control. The puppeteer's grip on his strings had long since snapped. The barrier shuddered, lines of stress fracturing its edges. Even Guy raised a brow. Dino sat upright. And then, quiet. As the dust settled, the chamber held its breath. Milim stood first, still encased in her draconic battle armor. Though cracks now lined her chestplate, and her horn flickered dimly, her fists trembled. Then, emerging from the receding haze, stood Rimuru. Unscathed. But no longer garbed in his simple tunic. His clothing had transfigured into a sleek, obsidian black armor of divine weave, trimmed in indigo runes. From his forehead, curving skyward, rose a single, crystalline horn of luminous silver. He exhaled once, and in his mind, Raphael purred. Notice. Ultimate skill, Satanel, Lord of Wrath, has acknowledged the origin. Confirmation. Ultimate skill, Satanel, Lord of Wrath, origin, successfully retrieved. Rimuru's brows lifted slightly. Huh, he muttered aloud, barely hearing himself. Before he could ask further, that was SOOCOOL. Milim screeched in delight, flinging herself through the air toward him, fists raised triumphantly. Bestie. Look, we have matching armor. Are we the coolest duo ever or what? Rimuru gave a soft, tired smile, shaking his head. Yeah, sure, totally. Meanwhile, the other demon lords watched, thunderstruck. But Velgrynd could no longer look directly at him. She turned her face away, one gloved hand resting lightly on her chin. Her golden eyes flicked toward the floor, unreadable. He matched Milim, and then surpassed her. That armor, the horn, he awakened something even he didn't expect. So he really is more than a slime, more than Ashura reborn. She refused to show the storm blooming in her chest, equal parts awe, jealousy, and something far more traitorous. Her heart ached, she hated it, yet she longed for his eyes to find her. Just once. But he didn't look her way. Instead, Rimuru exhaled softly, and whispered inside his thoughts. Raphael-chan, looks like you've got some explaining to do. Raphael giggled. He, with pleasure, my lord. Rimuru let out a soft chuckle, his gloved hand still gently patting Milim's head as the girl purred in delight. Cheeks puffed out in satisfaction like a kitten basking in praise. All right. Just give me one sec, Milim, he murmured, his gaze sliding sideways, cold and calculating now, as his tone dropped low, almost like a whispered promise. I still have one last bit of business to handle. His boots clicked lightly against the fractured obsidian floor, each step calm and deliberate, almost too quiet for the devastation that had just occurred. He walked like a god pacing across a battlefield of insects, unstoppable and absolute. Cracks of raw power still shimmered faintly beneath his feet, remnants of the titanic clash moments ago, where apocalypse had kissed the earth. There, slumped in disgrace, was Clayman. The marionette demon lord gasped hoarsely, his limbs twitching, blood smearing his once pristine coat. The sheer force of that earlier collision had flung him like a ragdoll into the barrier, and now he lay at its base, barely clinging to consciousness. His mind reeled, trying to comprehend the vast chasm between what he thought he controlled, and what stood before him. Rimuru's shadow fell over Clayman like a divine executioner's blade. So, Rimuru said, voice silk smooth and laced with something ancient beneath its gentleness. What do you think now, Clayman? Still believe you've got the upper hand? Clayman coughed, a tremor in his frame, and his bloodshot eyes slowly looked up, only to meet Rimuru's piercing golden gaze, burning with cold fire. Who are you, really? Clayman rasped, barely a whisper. No slime, no mere slime, could possess such strength. Rimuru knelt. A soft smile pulled at his lips, so serene, so unbothered, that it sent a deeper chill down Clayman's spine than any blade could. You're right, Rimuru said, his voice low and conspiratorial, like a god sharing a secret with the damned. I'm not just a slime. I'm something else entirely. He leaned closer, breath brushing against Clayman's ear, and whispered with a chilling finality, I'm the counterpart to the god who created everything. I reincarnated as a slime, yes, but don't mistake the shell for the soul. I am both the creator and the destroyer. Clayman's eyes went wide, past reason, past understanding, into the realms of primordial horror. His jaw fell slack. His entire being trembled, soul screaming in quiet terror. No, no, this is impossible. Such an existence, how can this be? Why does this being carry both ruin and divinity? Rimuru straightened, watching with cool disinterest as the puppet demon lord shook. Raphael, Rimuru called within the silence of his mind. Understood. I am ready to initiate spatial confinement. Shall I proceed upon signal? Rimuru's lips curled faintly. Yeah. He's not going to die just yet. He might be useful one day. As you wish, Master. A swirling vortex of violet and obsidian black energy shimmered to life in Rimuru's palm, an abyssal eye that opened into a private sub-dimensional space, created solely for imprisonment and silence. With a flick of his hand, it surged toward Clayman like a snake striking through time itself. No, wait. What is this? Clayman barely had time to cry before the vortex consumed him, his form twisting into non-existence with a crackle of energy and light. Then, nothing. No trace remained. To all observers, he had simply disintegrated. The battlefield fell quiet. Rimuru exhaled slowly, then turned, brushing non-existent dust from his coat. Okay, Clay-kun's gone now. Everyone's safe and sound, he said with a casual grin, stretching his arms behind his head. Aren't I just perfect? Milim snorted with laughter, skipping to his side. Totally perfect, bestie. 10 out of 10. Carrion looked like he was still trying to process everything that had happened, arms crossed, a tense expression on his beastly face. You call that perfect? You cracked the earth open like a melon. Frey, arms elegantly folded under her ample chest, raised a brow but offered a soft smile. Still, it's hard to deny the result. Even the ever-arrogant Roy Valentine, still in the guise of the demon lord Luminous Valentine, adjusted his collar, murmuring something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like, TCH, that kind of power shouldn't belong to a slime. But behind them all, watching in dignified silence was Velgrynd. The Crimson Primordial, the Flame Dragon Empress, the Marshal of the Eastern Empire. She stood with her arms folded across her immaculate cheongsam, hair perfectly bound in her twin buns, the golden embroidery across her thighs glinting faintly in the aftershock light. Her almond-shaped golden eyes narrowed, lips pressing together in a small, imperceptible twitch. She had said nothing the entire time, because words were dangerous right now. Her pride was a fortress, but that fortress had taken a blow. That idiot, that absurd, infuriating, impossible idiot, Velgrynd grit her teeth silently, eyes locked onto Rimuru's back. He had just sealed away a demon lord like it was nothing. His presence exuded something deeper than authority. It was origin, it was finality, it was divine. Her heart, the traitorous thing, fluttered. She scowled. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Why is it, every time he turns his back like that, I feel like I've missed something I was meant to witness? She folded her arms tighter, chin lifting with haughty disdain, but her cheeks were warm. Not with the fury of battle. Not with wrath. But, embarrassment? HMPH. As if I'd fall for a slime. Even if he looked at me like that. Even if he touched my hair so delicately when he thought I'd fallen asleep. Idiot. She let out a soft sigh, barely audible, only to herself. And yet, why does my heart keep betraying me? The sudden clap of hands broke the tension like lightning cracking the horizon. Well then, came Guy Crimson's voice, clear, resonant, smug. The Lord of Darkness stepped forward, arms spread theatrically, emerald suit glittering with unnatural flair. A magnificent show, Ashura. He paused, lips curling into a wicked grin. Or should I say, Rimuru Ashura Tempest. All eyes turned toward Rimuru. Guy's voice dropped, now serious, regal. Since the marionette demon lord is no more, and you, my friend, are now undeniably one of us in both power and status, it seems the time is right. He spread his arms wide, dramatic as always. Shall we begin the council? The true demon lord's banquet? Rimuru smirked, hands in his coat pockets, the moonlight catching his newly emerged horn as his golden eyes gleamed like stars. Absolutely, he said, his voice like velvet wrapped around steel. Let's begin, Walpergus. The Walpergus meeting room was a realm suspended beyond time, a sanctum of swirling power where even gods might hesitate. It stood as a vast, circular chamber, its obsidian walls each embedded with a shimmering portal, 14 in total, like glass eyes peering into the dominions of the demon lords. A smooth, moonstone table dominated the center of the room, carved into a perfect ring, its edge inscribed with ancient runes of neutrality and binding. Above, there was no ceiling, only an endless void of star-scattered darkness, a canvas painted by Guy Crimson himself, where constellations twinkled with malice and memory, echoing wars and wills long buried in the fabric of time. The silence after the chaos of Milim and Rimuru's clash had settled like dust after a storm. It was tangible, heavy with unspoken truths. Rimuru stood tall, still adorned in the spectral silver-violet armor that shimmered faintly with nihility energy, a remnant of the origin punch. His horn, a gleaming obsidian black spiral with silver luster, had receded slightly, but the overwhelming presence remained. Velgrynd stood across the chamber, arms folded beneath her regal bust, posture arched with haughty elegance. Her long twin buns fluttered gently as if caught in a breeze that did not exist. Her cheongsam shimmered with every movement, the golden dragon embroidery slithering as if alive. She had not spoken since the clash. She refused to. Her pride would not allow it. And yet, her golden eyes had not left him for a second. He stood, radiant and composed, exuding authority, chaos, and something else. Danger. The kind that crawled beneath the skin and whispered to instinct. And to her heart's betrayal, it thrilled her. He hadn't even looked at her directly since the impact, and it infuriated her. How dare he ignore me after showing such power? But another voice inside her stirred. How dare he make me want more? Across the room, Guy Crimson, ever smug, ever unreadable, tilted his head slightly and declared, well then. Since the warm-up's over and Clayman is now a wet carpet stain on the, I hereby declare the real Walpergus to begin. A murmur passed through the gathered demon lords, though none dared object. The seal was made, there was no more chaos, just consequences. Frey and Carrion, standing beside Milim, exchanged glances before stepping forward. Frey's voice rang, light and poised. We, the two demon lords of the animal kingdom and winged continent, hereby relinquish our thrones. From this day forward, we shall serve under demon lord Milim Nava as her vassals. Carrion nodded without a word, a fierce smile on his lips. The announcement was expected, but its finality sent a wave through the chamber. With grace, the two exited through the portal to their shared domain, silent, dignified. And then, only 10 remained. Guy Crimson, seated at the head, his long crimson hair pooling behind him like blood made silk. His maids, Rain and Misery, stood at attention like twin shadows. Leon Cromwell sat poised, his gloved fingers steepled, his icy expression betraying curiosity more than concern. De Gruel loomed at the far end, silent and mountain-like, his aura calm yet threatening. Dino lounged as always, eyes half-lidded, yawning with exaggerated indifference. Ramirez fluttered above her seat like a restless moth, with Beretta and Trainee standing silently behind her like sentinels of a forgotten forest. Roy Valentine sat stiffly, still pretending, while beside him, the silver-haired, maid, luminous Valentine continued her lil charade with elegance. And then Milim, ever radiant, bouncing in place as if nothing serious had happened. Velgrynd hadn't taken a seat, neither had Rimuru. Then, Guy's voice rang out like a spark across oil. So then, Rimuru-kun. What is your goal this time? Rimuru tilted his head. Goal? Guy smirked. Don't play dumb. Velda told us you're dangerous. That one day, you destroy everything. But all I see is you protecting your people, playing house in Tempest. So, where's the annihilation? Dino chimed in with a lazy drawl. Yeah, man. Velda told me the same. Said you're some walking apocalypse just waiting to burst. Ramirez flitted closer to Guy's shoulder, arms crossed. I dunno what you're talking about, but I didn't know Velda even knew Rimuru. That's kinda crazy. Then Milim turned, childlike innocence twisting with buried dread. Guy, can I ask something? She asked softly. He nodded, patient. So, you mean Velda? Like, Nava? As in, my dad? The chamber tensed. Even Rain's expression shifted. Rimuru sighed, voice low but clear. Unfortunately, yes, Milim. Velda was your father. A silence fell then. He didn't elaborate, he didn't need to. Roy scoffed. What is this? A family therapy session? This is Walpergus, isn't it? Leon raised a brow. From the sound of it, Velda isn't just anyone. He's someone important. Rimuru slowly turned his gaze to Roy, then, past him, locking eyes with the maid behind him. Roy Valentine, Rimuru said coolly, I think it's time to drop the charade. Roy blinked. What? Rimuru didn't even look at him. Luminous Valentine. Don't you think it's time you stopped pretending? Roy's face contorted in fury. You insolent, but before he could finish, the silver-haired maid exhaled and stepped forward. Fine, she said with elegant indifference. I'll stop pretending. My lady, Roy stammered. Luminous turned, her expression soft but absolute. You may leave, Roy. Rimuru is an old friend. His past life, yes, but still. There was no room for protest in her tone. Roy swallowed, gave Rimuru a stiff nod of apology, and exited the room through the Ruberio's portal in silence. And then, the illusion shattered. The maid uniform dissolved in ethereal light, replaced by a dark Gothic dress stitched from shadows and roses. Her pale throat glimmered with an ancient ruby. A veil fluttered and retracted behind her head like falling moonlight. Here I am, she said, eyes glinting. Luminous Valentine. The real demon lord. Happy now, Rimuru? He smiled. Absolutely. You've gotten even more beautiful in the last 4,000 years. She rolled her eyes with a smirk. Don't push your luck, slime. She took her seat like a queen retaking her throne. Rimuru followed. Velgryn's golden eyes narrowed. She sits beside him. Of course she does. That vixen always liked being coy. And yet, a sharp pang she refused to name twisted in her chest. Rimuru leaned back, arms crossed, gaze now calm, commanding. And Guy tapped the table once. Now. Explain. Rimuru smiled, but not warmly. It was the smile of someone who had survived gods, betrayal, and the weight of eternity. I will, he said softly, but not all of it, not yet. He turned his head slowly, looking up at the endless night above. But I'll start with why Velda sealed me. And as the stars above shimmered with ominous promise, Velgryn's gaze locked onto his. And her heart, that traitorous, wretched heart, beat faster than it had in thousands of years. Suddenly, in that unearthly stillness of the starlit chamber, Milim's voice echoed with a fragile tremble that made the cosmos above seem quieter than before. Bestie, are you going to tell me about my father? Her words wavered on the edge of cheer and sorrow, like a child wanting to laugh but finding tears waiting instead. Before Rimuru could answer, a sigh, sharp, regal, and exasperated, escaped from the scarlet lips of a woman far too proud for such soft expressions. Velgrynd, who had remained composed until now, flicked a dismissive glance at Milim, though her golden eyes betrayed something unspoken, an ache she herself refused to name. Milim, come here. The girl blinked in surprise. Aunt Velgrynd? But, just come. Her voice was commanding, yet her tone had a gentleness buried deep beneath its iron pride. Relax, and listen. Milim nodded obediently, walking over with the innocence of a child but the presence of a primordial force. She sat beside Velgrynd, close enough that their shoulders touched. A stillness settled around them, broken only by the flicker of starfire above. Am I truly about to learn the truth of the unnecessary existence? Velgrynd wondered inwardly, her jaw tight. Even now, despite all logic, despite millennia of loyalty, her heart betrayed her pride. It beat faster, not in fear, but in anticipation. A twisted, dangerous yearning. Rimuru stood at the center of the great circular table, the endless night reflecting in his silvery blue hair, eyes like twin stars carved from the very void. He did not sit. He didn't need to. The aura around him was far too vast for any throne. Let's see, Rimuru's voice was calm, each syllable flowing like a placid river, but beneath it thrummed an ancient weight, one far beyond the comprehension of even demon lords. As far as I remember, Velgrynd was an avatar of the absolute being, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. That will, that presence, made a few avatars in its image using its authority. Velgrynd was one of them. Guy Crimson narrowed his eyes, the endless flames behind them dancing. TCH. And that bastard dragon, Ivaraj? Rimuru nodded slightly. Yes. Another one. Guy clicked his tongue. That walking calamity's been a pain in my ass since the age of Genesis. You're not wrong. Rimuru allowed a shadow of a smirk. Wait. Milim lifted her head. So you're saying, you're an avatar too? Rimuru's gaze lingered on her, softening. Not exactly. I was an accident. A quiet gasp swept through the chamber. Only Velgrynd remained still, her back straight as ever, though her fingers curled against the curve of her thigh. Her nails dug through the satin of her gown, tension slicing into pride like a blade. An accident? Leon Cromwell echoed with narrowed eyes. I was born from the residual chaos between creation and destruction, Rimuru said. Unintended. Unclassified. I didn't even have a name. Just pure energy. Consciousness without purpose. The absolute being never gave me form or law. To them, I was a mistake. An unnecessary existence. Guy's eyes glinted. Now that I think about it, you really did match Velgrynd's spiritual pressure when we first sensed you. And that was before you had any unique or ultimate skills. Not even a title. Rimuru chuckled. I didn't have much at that time. Not even a soul, really. Just a will, and just a body. Guy fell silent. So did Dino, for once. Milim blinked again. So, Bestie matched Aunt Velzard. But, no wonder Bestie's so strong. She bounced a little in her seat. Makes so much sense now. Velgrynd flinched internally, her heart recoiling like it had been struck. Velzard met him first. The thought bit into her pride with claws of ice. Her elder sister, cold and indifferent, had crossed paths with Rimuru before her. That knowledge twisted something in Velgrynd's chest, something vile and irrational. How long had he been watching? How long had he existed, unseen and unwanted, yet somehow still leaving traces on those she deemed equals? Aside from that, Rimuru's tone returned to calm authority, as if shielding everyone from the depth of his origins. I was born embodying both ends, creation and destruction. A balance. A counter to Velgrynd and Ivaraj. But I was still weaker than them, of course. They were avatars of the absolute. I was just energy that had no place. Unlike other three idiots. Guy tilted his head, expression shifting. Wait, you said, 3 idiots. There's a third. Rimuru gave a cryptic smile, his tone quieter now, more intimate. You'll understand, when the time is right. A hush settled again, and Rimuru's gaze turned to Velgrynd. It wasn't seductive, yet it unsettled her. There was no arrogance in it. Only familiarity, only memory. During my final days, I met Velgrynd, Rimuru said, voice tinged with something that made even misery blink. Thanks to her, my existence lingered a little longer. Just enough to challenge Velgrynd. Velgrynd's breath caught. She remembered. The lake, the silent dusk, the being who shimmered like a star fading into mist. She hadn't realized then what he was. And now, he stood before her, solid, and more dangerous than she could allow herself to admit. Rimuru continued. Though I was fading, I managed to send a single fragment of my soul into the void, into an outer world. It reincarnated as a human, who died in a stabbing, and was reborn as, well, a slime. That's who I am now. Silence. The entire chamber seemed to pulse with the weight of that truth. Guy exhaled a long breath. So this isn't your full soul. Rimuru shrugged. No, but I have my memories. My heart. That's enough for me. Dino, rubbing his eyes sleepily, blinked. So let me get this straight, you're not at full potential. But you still match Milim. Seriously. I may be weaker in power, Dino, Rimuru said, his voice smooth, composed, irresistibly calm. But I'm still born of the origin. Remember that. Luminous, who had until now been sipping dark wine in silence, suddenly set her glass down. HMPH. That sounds familiar. My father, Twilight, used to say the same thing about his own nature. Oh, Rimuru raised a brow, his expression more curious than amused. If I had the chance, I'd have liked to thank Twilight. Everyone froze. Luminous stared. Why? Because, Rimuru said with a soft smile, he's the one who taught me how to send a soul fragment into the outer worlds. If not for him, I wouldn't exist today. Too bad I killed him, Luminous said flatly. Rimuru gave her a knowing nod. Fair, he was crazy after all. That earned a few surprised chuckles, even from Dino. And then, Guy stood. His coat rustled, casting ripples of heat through the air. His expression no longer held amusement or suspicion. Only gravity. This is my final question, he said, not as a demon lord, but as the mediator of this strange and cruel world. What is your true goal, Rimuru? Rimuru met his gaze. No fear, no hesitation. His eyes, aglow with ancient stars and untold histories, flicked toward Velgrynd for the briefest moment. She, in turn, sat immobile, shoulders proud, but her heart cracked at the edges, unsure if it wanted the answer, or feared it. Then Rimuru said, I did declare my nation go against both humans and gods. And also I am planning to evolve Tempest into an empire soon. But, yes, I did kill those 20,000 Falmouth soldiers who dared invade Tempest. I became a true demon lord that day. And I did send Veldora to wipe the kingdom of Falmouth off the map. But I am not interested in mindless slaughter. I'm not looking to go around killing people. There was silence. Not of judgment. Not of fear. But that heavy, magnetic kind. The kind that settles over those who have just seen a truth revealed. A sovereign not afraid of the title, Demon Lord. Milim, her expression a mess of admiration and half-hidden yearning, grinned wide, like a child shown a new toy too dangerous to play with. Hua, that's so cool, she said, half laughing, half in awe, her eyes glittering like crimson stars. Bestie, you really went full badass this time. The others exchanged glances. Dagrul let out a slow breath, Leon leaned back slightly, Luminous narrowed her pale eyes, and Dino gave a sleepy whistle. But Velgrynd said nothing. She sat composed, legs crossed with imperial poise, her long gloved fingers resting against her thigh, but her mind was aflame. He's talking about massacres like he's discussing the weather. The destruction of a kingdom in passing breath, and yet, why does my heart flutter at that voice? Why does he sound beautiful when talking about bloodshed? No, ridiculous. I'm a true dragon. Proud, resplendent, absolute. I do not blush. I do not flinch. I do not care. And yet her face warmed. The faintest pink tinge danced across her cheekbones, masked beneath the polished composure of her goddess-like pride. Rimuru's eyes flicked to her, reading everything in an instant. And then Rimuru said, tones softening like velvet drawn across steel, I guess, my first goal has already been reached. He let the words linger, careful, like bait cast into a storm. Someone I really need to keep all to myself. His gaze settled directly, unmistakably, on Velgrynd. She turned away instantly, eyes locking on a point in the far wall, jaw stiff with an elegance that screamed denial. But her thoughts roared inside. No, look away. Don't react. You're the scorched dragon. You don't get swayed by flirtations. But, damn it, he looked at me like that, like he meant it. Like he already owns what he seeks. Arrogant slime. Rimuru turned his attention back to the chamber, voice even, calm like a midnight tide. For now, he said, I'll play villain to the humans. Hero to the monsters. Guy raised a brow, arms folded. So you categorize yourself? Rimuru gave a slow smile. A villain, of course. Guy's eyebrow twitched. Why? Because, Rimuru said, his voice a low and dangerous hum, if I call myself a hero. Or even a good person, I'll start to believe that sacrificing myself, or the people I love, is noble, heroic, the right thing. The room fell still. Even the magical ulay in the air stilled. Rimuru continued. But if I am a villain, evil, cruel, demon lord, monster, whatever the world calls me, then I can do what really matters. Protect the people I care about. Not the world. Not the bystanders who'll one day curse my name. Just them. De Gruel let out a long grunt. That's blunt, but honest. Leon adjusted his gloves, golden hair falling across one eye. I've sacrificed too much for ideals. Maybe you're right. Ramirez flitted nervously. So you're saying villains are better because they don't care about being betrayed? They don't ask for thanks, Rimuru replied, they just protect. Luminous folded her arms. I am thinking the same thing. Rimuru smiled slightly. UWW thanks. Luminous blinked. Shut up. Rimuru gave a lazy shrug. Nop, Milim leaned forward suddenly, fists balled under her chin. I think, I want to do that too. Like, protect what I want without caring if others call me a villain. You already doing that, Milim? Velgrynd, still slightly flushed, missed that part, too busy glaring at the floor. Idiot. Stop saying such things in front of others. Stop making me feel like this. Guy's smile faded. I see. His crimson eyes darkened, seriousness replacing mischief. Well then, Rimuru. I suppose I can't go against you this time. But, if you ever go berserk, if you ever lose control, I will stop you myself. Rimuru's voice was a smooth dagger. Absolutely. Though I don't think that'll be necessary. Then, quietly, as if asking something trivial, Rimuru finally took his seat next to Velgrynd. The cushion dipped slightly beneath his presence. His voice was calm. Too calm, because I'm not planning to go on a rampage. Guy gave a slight nod. Good. And then Rimuru asked, tone far too casual, by the way, how's Velzard? Guy raised a brow. Why do you ask? Velgrynd flinched. Subtly. Almost imperceptibly. Why bring her up? Of all the things to say next to me. Velzard, my elder sister. Why does that sting? Rimuru looked up at the ceiling, thoughtful. She did name me, after all. Guy sighed. Oh yeah. Ashura. She was the one who named you that. Still stuck on the ice continent, doing absolutely nothing. You're welcome to visit, say hi if you want. Rimuru smirked faintly. Maybe. I'll see when I can. Velgrynd's fingers tightened just slightly around the silk of her cheongsam. Why does it feel like I'm being compared to her? Again. Always. Then, Dino yawned and said with his usual sleepy indifference, hate to break it to you guys, but we don't have 10 demon lords anymore. The mood shifted. His words cut the silence like a pebble breaking still water. Only 8, he mumbled. So don't we need a new name? The entire chamber fell into a hush. Crimson eyes, golden eyes, draconic eyes, all glanced around, unreadable expressions masking turbulent thoughts. A new name. A new age. A new player had arrived, and the old rules no longer applied. Dino, you really had to remind us about the naming fiasco, huh? Milim pouted, crossing her arms with a childish scowl, though her blue eyes sparkled with mischief. Dino sighed deeply, his horned head lowering as if under the weight of all the past embarrassment. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? Remind us all that our illustrious Demon Lord Council can't even pick a decent name without making fools of ourselves? De Gruel rolled his shoulders and muttered, looking half amused, half annoyed. Ramirez giggled, her voice like chimes. I mean, it's honestly hilarious. We're these terrifying beings ruling over nations, and yet, here we are, arguing like kids over a nickname. Luminous Valentine sighed dramatically, sighed just enough to give an air of exasperation. Why'd I get stuck with these chaotic councils? When will anyone just take things seriously? Leon Cromwell, ever the stoic, adjusted his cape, dryly remarking, it's a miracle we haven't started a war over this great name debate. The chamber erupted in a brief, light-hearted bickering storm, the kind only immortal beings with millennia of experience could share with such childishness and good humor. Velgrynd, seated with perfect posture in her sleek black cheongsam embroidered with golden dragons, observed silently. Her golden almond-shaped eyes narrowed slightly, lips pressed into a thin line that barely concealed the disdain blossoming within her. Is this really the Demon Lord Council? She thought bitterly. More like a children's roleplay. They can't even settle on a name. Yet even as her mind scorned the spectacle, a flicker of amusement, barely perceptible, tingled in her chest. She would never admit it aloud, not with her pride standing guard like an unbreachable fortress. Dad Rimuru, lounging with casual confidence on an obsidian chair carved from the heart of a fallen star, looked over the scene with calm amusement. What's up with this naming thing anyway? His tone was easy, as if he were asking about the weather, but beneath that smooth voice hid the sharp intellect of one who had turned worlds inside out. Dino, still sheepish, rubbed the back of his neck. Well, you see. We tried to come up with a name worthy of our fearsome status. Something badass, something that echoes through eternity. We even flirted with the idea of Hellfire Quartet, once. Hellfire Quartet. Milim burst out laughing, slapping her knee. What the hell is that? Sounds like a rock band. Dino grimaced. Yeah. Not our finest hour. Eventually, we just gave up and used 10 Great Demon Lords, which wasn't even our idea. It's a nickname the mortals slapped on us, so we just went with it. Guy Crimson leaned forward, a cold smile curving on his lips. Thanks to you, he said, nodding at Dino, then to Rimuru. 2 demon lords stepped down, and one was killed by you, Rimuru-kun. His eyes gleamed dangerously. I hereby grant you the honor to name our Demon Lord Council. As a new demon lord and my old friend. Rimuru let out a long, slow sigh, casting a glance skyward, tracing the endless black ceiling speckled with stars. I'm not getting out of this, am I? Guy chuckled softly. Nope, you're not. The silence that followed was profound. The chamber seemed to hold its breath. There are 8 demon lords, Rimuru mused aloud, voice low but filled with certainty. 8 stars shining in the void, AKY. 8-star demon lords, Octogram. The word hung in the air like a spell. Again, the chamber fell silent, each lord contemplating the simplicity and strength of the name. Dino finally broke the quiet with an exasperated laugh. Just like that. If it's that easy, why the hell did we go through hell last time? Milim clapped her hands gleefully. See, my bestie was incredible. She looked at Rimuru with a teasing grin. Velgryn's mind betrayed her again. Impressive, she thought, though her face remained a mask of indifference. Pride wouldn't allow her to give even a hint of approval aloud. The faint warmth in her chest she refused to name twisted cruelly. Guy stood, regal and commanding. Then it settled. The Demon Lord Council shall henceforth be known as the Octogram. From the stepped Misery, the mysterious Demon Lord of Pain and Shadows, who raised her hand with a grim smile. With that, the Walpergus is concluded. Her voice echoed, chilling yet reverent. Allow me to introduce the leaders of the Octogram. Her words hung heavy with solemnity. Guy Crimson, Lord of Darkness. The chamber bowed its head slightly in respect. Milim Nava, the Destroyer. The pink-haired dragon princess flashed her signature mischievous grin. Ramirez, the Queen of the Labyrinth. The impish demon lord twirled a lock of hair. Dino, the sleeping ruler. His lazy form shifted lazily. Luminous Valentine, the Queen of Nightmares. Her eyes gleamed like stars. De Gruel, the Earthquake. His presence was solid and immovable. Leon Cromwell, Platinum Saber. The nightly demon lord stood rigid and proud. Then Guy turned his piercing gaze toward Rimuru. And for you, Rimuru-kun. What title shall you take? Milim couldn't resist. How about the obliterating tsunami? She chirped, giggling. The eternal inferno, Ramirez added, her tone teasing. The infinite night, Luminous suggested, her voice low and haunting. Dino grunted. How about the sleeping dude? Velgryn's eyes flickered briefly before she spoke, her voice sharp and clear. I prefer Blazing Star. Her prideful tone left no room for argument. The room fell utterly silent, the weight of her unexpected suggestion hanging thick in the air. They all stared, stunned, at the proud Scotch dragon who had never so much as bent her will to anyone, not even Rimuru himself, offering a title with such conviction. Guy's eyes gleamed with a mixture of amusement and respect. Damn, Rimuru-kun, you really have changed her. Rimuru smiled slyly, leaning toward Velgrynd. Oh, my lovely Velgrynd, giving me a title now. I think I like that one. Guy exhaled a long breath. All right then. He turned to Misery, who raised her voice once more, authoritative and resonant. Henceforth, Demon Lord Rimuru Tempest shall be known as the Blazing Star. With that final declaration, the Octogram was born, an emblem of power, unity, and the dawn of a new era ruled by the Blazing Star at its center. == To be continued ==